Love letters turn to ashes. The petals that once promised forever now crumble beneath the weight of silence. The sun still rises, but the warmth feels borrowed. The laughter that once filled the air now echoes like a ghost in an abandoned room. Roses are dead, violets are dying outside. It's not just a twist on a poem. It's the silent truth many feel but never speak. This isn't just about flowers. It's about the withering of beauty we once believed in. It's about how even the most vibrant parts of us can fade when ignored, neglected, or taken for granted. It's about grief, the quiet kind that doesn't come from death, but from disappointment, from trust broken, from time lost. The world doesn't always offer closure. Sometimes we're left staring at wilted things, wondering how they once bloomed so beautifully. This video is a descent into the raw, unspoken corners of heartbreak, decay, disillusionment, and the haunting beauty of letting go. But maybe, in that decay, there is something strangely honest, something quietly human. Let's begin. There was a time when everything felt alive. The garden bloomed not just with flowers, but with hope. Each rose was a promise, each violet a whispered dream. But what do you do when beauty begins to rot before your eyes? When the petals fall faster than you can catch them, and your hands are stained not with color, but with the bruises of trying to hold on. We rarely notice the moment things start to change. Decay doesn't scream, it whispers. It begins with small silences, unanswered texts, distracted glances, until suddenly, you wake up and realize the roses are dead, and the violets, they've been dying slowly. Outside the window you stop looking through. We say everything dies, but what we really mean is, everything we thought would last, doesn't. And that's where the ache begins. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just sitting in a room full of memories that no longer belong to you. It's brushing your teeth in the same mirror, but the reflection is lonelier. It's hearing a song and not knowing whether to cry or smile, because that song used to be yours. But now it feels like a ghost humming through your bones. We often mistake love for permanence, as if the heart is immune to erosion, as if two people standing under moonlight could outlast the cycles of pain they never prepared for. But the truth is, most things fall apart long before they break. The distance grows inside the silence. The rot begins at the root. By the time we notice, what we loved is already halfway gone. And yet, we keep holding funerals for things that still breathe. We keep mourning people who haven't left, but aren't really there anymore. And that is a different kind of death. Love rarely leaves with the slam of a door. It's more like a gentle closing. No argument, no final scream, just a gradual thinning of presence, like a candle that forgets how to burn. You notice it in small ways. The lack of eye contact, the way their phone matters more than your voice, the way their body is near, but their soul feels miles away. And you try. God, do you try? You buy flowers hoping they'll remember. You cook their favorite meal hoping they'll taste your effort. You sit beside them hoping they'll notice your silence is just a scream in reverse. But they don't, because when someone has already started leaving, they've stopped looking for reasons to stay. Love doesn't always end in anger. Sometimes it ends in apathy. And that's the part no one prepares you for. The quiet withdrawal of someone who once swore they'd never let you go. Every relationship begins as a garden. It requires patience, tenderness, and daily attention. But life gets busy, ego gets loud, and the flowers, they begin to thirst. We stopped writing notes. We stopped saying thank you. We stopped checking in because we assumed they'd always be there. But even the most beautiful garden dies when it's ignored. Love isn't a self-sustaining miracle. It's maintenance. It's effort. It's noticing the weeds before they take over. We saw the signs. We just kept walking past them, telling ourselves everything would bloom again in the spring. But spring never came, not because the world was cruel, but because we stopped planting. And now the garden is full of ghosts, of what we meant to do, of who we meant to be, of the love we assumed would live forever. I remember her laugh, not the kind in public, the one used to be polite, but the laugh that came when no one else was around, the laugh that cracked her open, the one that made me believe maybe love was real. We were lying on the floor, listening to some song that neither of us remember now. But the way her eyes softened, I swear, that moment was alive. We didn't know it then, but that would be one of the last moments we truly saw each other. Over time, the conversations grew shorter, the glances less warm. We stopped asking each other how we really felt. Maybe we were scared of the answers. Maybe we both knew something was dying, and we didn't want to hold the funeral. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't arrive with shouting or blame. It comes with distance, two hearts slowly drifting apart while pretending they're still side by side. She never said goodbye, but I could feel it in the way she hugged me like she was already letting go. And I hated myself for still loving her when she no longer looked back. Some things were never spoken, and maybe that's what hurt the most. We never said, I feel like I'm disappearing. We never said, I'm scared we're losing what we built. We just smiled, told each other we were tired, and left it at that. But silence has its own weight, heavier than any argument. It lingers in the air, in the space between two people who used to tell each other everything. I started writing letters I never sent. She started sleeping with her back to me. And the house became a museum of the past, full of laughter that once was, photos that couldn't speak, and rooms that echoed with too much space. I would have rather had a storm. I would have preferred the shouting, the tears, the slammed doors, because at least then, it would have meant we were still trying. But we didn't. We just let it all wilt, like roses left too long in the vase. We watched everything beautiful turn gray and did nothing. There's a point in love where silence no longer feels empty. It feels like a third person in the room. It breathes between us. It lingers at the dinner table. It crawls into bed before either of us do. I used to hear her hum when she did the dishes. Now, it's just the sound of water running and something unsaid floating in the air. It's funny how quiet things scream the loudest. The untouched coffee mug, the way she stopped asking me how I slept, the phone turned face down always. This isn't about playing. This is about absence, and how it doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes a person leaves emotionally, long before they pack a bag, and in that space, you start talking to the silence like it knows something you don't. You start asking it what went wrong. Why it hurts more to sleep next to someone who feels like a stranger than to sleep alone, and silence never answers. It just stays, unmoved, like the ghost of the love you once believed would never leave. We made promises once, not in big, dramatic declarations, but in those small, trembling ways people do when they believe forever is real. She promised to stay through the seasons. I promised to keep her warm. And somewhere between the spring and the winter, we both got cold. The roses on the table began to die, and neither of us thought to replace them. It's wild how love fades, not in fire, but in frost. One day she looked at me like I was just a chapter she had outgrown, and I, too proud or too afraid, pretended I hadn't noticed. We walked on petals, pretending they weren't falling. We spoke in smiles, pretending they weren't lies. And all those promises, they were never shouted into the sky. They were whispered like lullabies, and maybe that's why they disappeared just as softly. But still, sometimes I wake up and swear I smell her shampoo. Still, I pass by someone who laughs like her, and it guts me, not because I want her back, but because I know some things bloom only once, and when they die, they don't grow back. Some nights, I replay it all like a film with no ending. The first laugh, the first time our hands found each other like instinct, the plans whispered into 2 a.m. darkness, the names we'd call our children, the cities we wanted to see, the versions of ourselves we were becoming together. But the cruel thing about love's demise is not just what you lose, it's what you never got to become. What if we had just tried one more time? What if I had leaned in instead of pulled away? What if she had said she missed me when she still did? We carry ghosts of the life we almost lived, and no matter how much time passes, they walk beside us, quiet but present. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks of me when the rain hits the windows just right, if my name ever stirs in the back of her throat, only to be swallowed by pride or pain. We didn't break in one moment. We shattered in whispers, in unread texts, in smiles that stopped reaching our eyes. And now, all I have left are the ashes of a love that could have built a cathedral. No one teaches you how to grieve someone who's still breathing, how to bury a relationship while still bumping into their ghost in your dreams. It's a strange kind of funeral. No black suits, no flowers, no closure, just the soft, suffocating process of teaching your heart to beat again, without the rhythm of theirs. I kept her toothbrush for weeks, not because I thought she'd return, but because throwing it away felt like admitting it was really over. Love doesn't just exit cleanly, it lingers in playlists, in smells, in songs you can't listen to anymore. It lingers in the way you reach for someone at night, only to find your own empty chest. But maybe love was never meant to last the way we think. Maybe it's meant to teach, to shake us open, to mirror what we still need to heal inside ourselves. Maybe she wasn't the forever I wanted, but the transformation I needed. And that realization, as brutal as it feels, is the beginning of peace. Time is not a healer. Time is a mirror. It shows you what you carried, what you buried, and what you must choose to water again. For the longest time, I kept my heart behind glass, on display but untouched, afraid to let anyone in, afraid to love again only to watch everything wilt. But grief, like seasons, shifts slowly, and one day, I noticed something small. I didn't think of her name when I made coffee. The silence didn't ache as much. The night felt less like a battlefield. Healing doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, like sunlight through blinds you forgot to open. I started tending to my own garden again, reading books that challenged me, writing letters I never sent, learning how to sit with myself without craving someone else to fill the space. Maybe love was never about finding someone to make us whole. Maybe it's about becoming whole enough that love is an offering, not a rescue. And maybe, just maybe, roses can bloom again, even after the frost. They say every heartbreak is a teacher, and she was one of my greatest. Not because she stayed, but because she left. She taught me how to hold on too tightly, how to beg for love silently, how to smile while breaking. But after her, I learned how to stay with myself. I stayed when the nights were too long. I stayed through the memories, the self-blame, the regret. I stayed through the silence until it stopped being my enemy and became my peace. Now, when I think of her, it's not with anger, it's with soft gratitude, because sometimes the people who break your heart are the same ones who crack it open, just wide enough for light to get in. So here I am, no longer waiting by a door that closed, no longer writing poems for someone who stopped reading. I am growing still tender, still uncertain, but I am finally mine, and for the first time, that is enough. If you've ever loved someone so deeply that their absence echoes louder than their presence ever did, if you've buried parts of yourself just to keep someone else, then let this be your moment of truth. You are not broken because someone left. You are not unworthy because something ended. You are a living poem still being written, still becoming. So, take this pain and plant it, grow from it, and when you bloom, bloom loudly. If this story touched a part of you, like, share, and leave a comment below. I'm still learning to bloom. Let's find each other in the silence we all carry. And if you're ready to turn your heartbreak into healing, subscribe to Innerverse. You will not be free until you free yourself from the person you think you should be, and the past you're still holding on to. Michael A. Singer reminds us, healing isn't about changing the past. It's about changing our relationship to it. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without breaking, loving without needing, living without apology.